Okay, let's talk about the Metro series. Not just about Metro 2033, which is the first game, but also about the other two, briefly, because this video is mostly about 2033. But I'll touch on the other two games as well, briefly. So this is a series that came out, I think around like 2009, 2010, the first game. At first it was PC only. This was one of those games that had an aura of mystique behind it because it was PC only at first, and you had to have a beefy PC to run it. So kind of like the next Crisis. And in fact, this was used a lot in PC benchmarks at the time, at least until the sequel came out. So like I was lucky enough to be able to play the 360 version because this game also came out on 360 originally after a few years. I think after 1 or 2 years, I don't remember. And yeah, the 360, like let's open a parenthesis for a few seconds. The 360 was a pretty good console in this sense, just like the first Xbox. Because if you didn't have like a good enough PC, you were like pretty much able to play a bunch of games that were PC only and were not being ported anywhere else. So it was just like the first Xbox. The 360 was a very PC friendly in this sense console because you could play. Just think at the original Xbox as well. For example, you could play Doom 3, Half-Life 2 on the original Xbox. That were two PC killer applications. Let's say that. So having played this game on the 360 originally, and now having replayed it after more than 10 years, because I think I did play the original in 2010. And I was captured immediately by the atmosphere, the atmosphere of this series, because this series is pretty much an FPS. The gameplay, like the shooting, feels very Call of Duty like. But what makes it special is the lore, the atmosphere, the setting. You could say that the setting of Metro is pretty similar to what Fallout is, but just more mature. Because Fallout has a lot of comedy in it, like its writing is very like sarcastic and so on. But Metro, no, Metro instead is pretty gritty and serious. But of course, it's not an RPG. It's strictly an FPS with a survival horror elements. So the similarities, like I said, end up there in terms of the post-apocalyptic setting. Because the Metro series takes place after like a nuclear war, so you're pretty much presented with your average wasteland, like nuclear wasteland. But the peculiarity when it comes to the lore of the series is that it has a lot of mystique around it. Like there are supernatural elements to its lore, and also it has its own like creatures, monsters, and so on. If I'm not mistaken, I think the Metro games were made but by some of the Stalker developers. So you can definitely sense a similarities with the Stalker series as well. And when it comes to the game itself, we're discussing in this video, which is 2033, which is the first installment. I would say you can compare it to Resident Evil 1, let's say, and Last Light is Resident Evil 2. So of course you don't want to skip the first game. I suggest you start with this one for sure, because it's still very enjoyable. Um, to be honest, like the gameplay, as at least when it comes to Last Light, has not seen great improvements compared to this one. Also because you have to take into consideration that they did re-release these games around 2014 with the uh, deluxe releases, remasters. So if you wanna buy the games now, at least the first two are only available in the deluxe editions, which are cheaper. I don't know exactly what the differences are because I've only played Last Light, the original version, and this one, the Redux. I think they just use a different engine, a lighter engine to run on less powerful hardware. And also, I think when it comes at least to Metro 2033, the deluxe edition asks you at the beginning what kind of experience you want. Like if you want a more like stealth friendly version, like the original was, or you want a more action oriented version, which is more like shooty, more like a la Call of Duty. So yeah, I think the difference is and there. So you want to play this version because I don't think the original you can even buy it anywhere, and it's also pretty hard to run. It was back then. I don't know now if there are PCs more that are powerful enough to check it up. But yeah, I was saying in terms of gameplay, the shooting feels very Call of Duty. So if you play Call of Duty, you'll feel right at home. It's very simple. Of course, like I said, the strong point the series has is its atmosphere, its setting, and so on. The shooting is serviceable. It feels meaty enough, powerful enough. The weapons have kickback enough that it's pleasant to shoot stuff. It has a lot of blood. I mean, it being a survival horror, it makes sense. A lot of blood, a lot of body horror with the corpses scattered around that are like pretty much rotting or just straight up bones and so on. So it's very very creepy, very mature in this sense, very graphic, and the game structure pretty much consists of levels. You move from one level to another level. The levels are very linear overall. There might be like some alternate paths every now and then in a level, but it's mostly linear. Nothing like it's not an open world game for sure. Even when you happen to go outside, because the levels take place inside the metro, which is pretty much the tunnels where in Russia. So let's say the metro tunnels, the train tunnels down underneath Russia, Moscow, around those places. But some levels also take place like outside in the wasteland, and those levels are gonna be a little bit more open in terms of exploration and path. But they are also very linear because the path to go forward is pretty much only one. You can explore and find some alternate paths that lead to secret goodies, ammunitions, resources, and so on. But the path to progress is just one. So the game structure in this sense is very linear. The weapons you can find are varied enough because there are weapons which are, I mean, they're self-explanatory. There's your average AK, there's your average submachine gun, shotgun, double barrel, and so on, a revolver, and they're all customizable. You can pretty much change parts, power them up. Each weapon has its own, for the most part, like upgrades, and you can upgrade them at the merchants that you will meet every now and then during the levels. Another peculiarity when it comes to the weapons is that there are, of course, I mean, primary weapons and secondary weapons. So you'll have like your grenades, mostly the pipe bombs. There are different type of pipe bombs, and also there are knives to kill enemies more stealthily. Like you just straight up throw them like shurikens, and so on. So the combat gives you like a few options. So it's not it's not monotone. It doesn't get like boring. Also because this game has stealth, so technically you can avoid combat most of the time, I think. Except that I personally don't suggest it because the stealth is pretty basic and feels kind of bad. It's very jank. So I'll kill. I'll stun 2 or 3 enemies with stealth. Then I'll just start like going more aggressive because the stealth is kind of boring. I like to shoot stuff, and the game, from what I've seen, rewards stealth for the most part, in the sense that I think you get good boy points if you don't kill enemies. So you either stun them with stealth, or you just sneak past them if you have the patience. Because the game, it's the whole series for the most part, but this game doesn't make an exception. So it's the same thing as the other games. Gives you the real ending only, the good ending, let's call it, only if you get enough good boy points. And you get good boy points by exploring, finding secrets, and of course avoiding conflict, I think. I'm not very, very sure on that. Another thing to add when it comes to the whole upgrades and merchant stuff is that the currency is very interesting, because there's like the currency in this universe is bullets. So you buy stuff with bullets, not money, because of course after the war ended, so with the whole nuking of Russia and everything, money is useless. So the only currency that matters is bullets. That gets you around. Like you have the chance to defend yourself with them, or buy stuff with them. So I think it's a very neat little detail of the lore. It gives definitely personality to the whole universe. And it's not just a lore element. It also comes into play in the actual gameplay, because you can switch between your currency bullets in the gun, or like the standard bullets the game gives you, because the standard bullets you find in the game were mostly all made after the war, so they are of lower quality compared to the ones you use as currency that were made before the war, so they were of better quality due to the better productive process and all that stuff and materials. So the ones that made after the war are mostly scrap metal and and other mystery metal that's not very clear where it comes from. But yeah, they are very like amateurish when it comes to the manufacturing process, and so at least the game gives you this chance to either use the more powerful bullets, so the ones you have as currency by default, which to be honest, it's not really like suggested unless you already know you're at the end of the game, because, or maybe if you already know you have the weapons you like and don't need any more resources, because yeah, they do indeed more damage, but if you use all of them, you can't buy any more stuff at the merchants unless you sell one of your weapons, which, I mean, you can carry 3 weapons at once, so if you want you can sell one. You can do even with just 2 in the end. It's definitely doable. When it comes to the story itself, I mean, this is a series that it's inspired by books, because there are Metro books. I don't know, like, I haven't read the book, so I don't know exactly how faithful it is. But I think from what I've seen, the story is decent enough that will capture your attention in most cases, because it's narrated well through Artyom's, which is the protagonist, perspective. Going forward into the story, you'll get to know more about the universe, the characters you meet, and so on. I think it's a well narrated story. It's very it's a bit simplistic, and it's also an anti-war type of story. Of course, it makes sense considering the universe it takes place in. But I would say it's engaging. It's one of those single player games that deserves can be played, let's say, even just for the story, and if you want to see how it goes forward, how it progresses, because it's interesting enough that it doesn't overstay its welcome. And of course, there is a whole trilogy of games to play if you want to see how everything evolves. One last thing to mention when it comes to the universe, which I think it needs to be said before if you want to get into the series, is that the third game kind of shits on the whole lore of the series, because now I don't know if it was done in the books as well, but I think it was also something that was done in the books. Now, I'm not gonna spoil it, but in the third game, something happens that kind of renders pointless all the things that happened before, because you get to ask yourself, what was the fucking point then? So keep in mind there's a potential bummer in the third game in terms of story. Even though, I mean, I did play the third game, I did enjoy it. It was fun. Definitely a good game, but when it comes to the story, the writing, that thing really makes you question. Then everything was kind of, no, I'm not gonna say pointless, but I mean the whole lore was like, why all those fucking like philosophies, like monologues about the souls, that are trapped in the metro and so on, when you then pretty much write off everything. But I'm not gonna get into that. It's gonna get into spoiler territory. So if you get to play the third game, you'll see what I mean. So now, to conclude, the game, the series in general, but also the first game, is still pretty worth playing. It's fun. It doesn't overstay its welcome. Great atmosphere, and decent gameplay. Feels a bit similar to Call of Duty. Honestly, I wish it would play a little bit different than Call of Duty, but what can you do? The game is still enjoyable overall. The exploration feels a bit stiff, especially when you're in places where there is no combat, because when you are in markets and places with other people, of course you can't throw out your gun and start shooting. And also you move slowly. You move slower when you are in these places, so it's kind of jarring and annoying. But other than that, the game is still well worth playing. So this is it for the first Metro. So let me know your thoughts as usual, if you enjoy the series and so on. And like, please, comment and subscribe. And I'll catch you in the next video. Now I don't know if I'm gonna replay the whole series. Maybe I'll play the second game as well, but we'll see. I don't know. I do things as they come by, so I'll let you know. But yeah, see you soon, guys. Bye bye.